Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Widowhood. Our guest today is Mr. Daniel Knight. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, Tina. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you for being here. It was a pretty good connection that we made. The conversation was good. So I'm looking forward to this. And I love that you said no topic is off the table and that everything is to be discussed. So there's a couple of different things I think that the audience, our community will find encouraging, inspiring, and just a lot to hear. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. So Daniel, What is the whole unicorn universe back there? We cannot not talk about it. We see it there.
Yeah, I definitely like to bring the brand out in as many ways possible. You know, you have a business, you want to get the name out there, right? So
yeah.
Unicorn Universe is my business. I founded it with a few different people just at the beginning of January 2021. And we are all about making connections. So we find out what people need, and then we'll make introductions to other people based on what we think will help them get to where they're trying to go. And we do that through our community. We have active members that come to our connection events, and it's all about just trying to focus on who we can connect for each other that helps with whatever it is that we're working on.
Okay, an example of what that may look like or why. If I can scroll through the internet and find a particular person that's an accountant or a person that's a therapist or this or that, why would I want to come to the unicorn universe? Why would that be advantageous for me?
Yeah, so a lot of it, when we talk about people that we bring into our community, it really comes down to a type of person above all else. And so you can know that the people in our group are generally, trustworthy people. They think in abundance. They are givers. They want to support other people. They want to collaborate with other people. So that kind of alone is like our way of saying you can trust that the people in the unicorn community are these kind of people. So that, in addition to when we make an introduction to one of our partners, for example, like let's say somebody needs marketing services. They just launched a new product and they want to create a campaign and they're looking for somebody to help with the marketing. A lot of the time people will go and shop around and maybe even end up engaging with somebody for their services and then not get what they expected or the service is subpar. So because we have some involvement from the introductions that we make to people, sometimes we'll get involved and help make sure things are going as expected. If it's a company we've set up a partnership with, you can generally trust that they're going to do what they said they're going to do. And so we're kind of an extra layer of support for people.
Okay. So how did you come about the name Unicorn Universe?
So we kind of just knew we wanted to do something with unicorns because the group of us that started it, we're all kind of unique and different in our own unicorn type of way. And we just knew we wanted to do something fun. And so we went with unicorn. And then we spent a couple of days really figuring out what we wanted to do with the business. And then we came up with the universe because that really supported what we were creating.
Okay. And I didn't prepare this question, but the intro video that I actually saw, I would like to put that with part of the podcast, the video version, if you can send me that, and then we'll put that with it because you don't quite get the gist of it by seeing the name without seeing the video and how you guys put that together. That was very unique, and I want them to be able to see that. The one reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you is Yes, Widowhood Real Talk with Tina is often about people sharing their journey from the death of a loved one, but often out of that, people have to reinvent themselves. They have
Mhm.
to maybe start up a business because we're now in this virtual world where someone can take the skills that they've given to an employer and now create their own business. Do you have people in the unicorn universe that assist people in doing something like that?
So specifically with those kind of transitions going from like an employer relationship to then a self-employed relationship.
And so
Um,
that would be like maybe someone that does coaching because someone may have not been speaking out a lot. Someone may need an accountant
yeah.
because they have those needs. They may need to have legal advice. They may need to understand how to network. So I could see how being part of your universe could be a step into helping them do that. I guess a turnkey situation instead of having to find all these different people creating their brand, developing a marketing campaign. That seems like something that could benefit somebody that's looking to have a life perspective change like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and with that, so we will do what's called a dream discovery with people, where we figure out, where they're at in their business, what they're trying to accomplish, and we'll just have a natural conversation with them. And sometimes these different things will come up like that, right? Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I just started my company. I'm still trying to figure things out." And depending on what they say, we might have people to connect to them, and we understand that just through building relationships with people in the community, as well as establishing more formalized partnerships. But we're really actively focused on trying to find people we can connect to help them out.
The dream discovery is pretty interesting. What does that normally look like in a conversation with someone, and about how long should they allot for that time?
Yeah, so we have it set for about 30 minutes to an hour. Currently, it's scheduled for 30 minutes, but there's a 15-minute buffer. We used to do them for a full hour, but it ended up being quite a bit more than was necessary. Um, so, in that conversation, we'll generally ask people why they started their business and what their goal is for the business. Like, what's their long-term vision? Anytime I put a number on it, I always seem to be wrong. So, like, I'll ask somebody, what's your 5 year vision? And they'll be like, oh man, I'm still thinking about next month, let alone 5 years from now, right? Or I'll be like, okay, let's talk about longer term vision. Where are you trying to be a year from now? And they're like, oh, I'm talking like 10 years from now. So it's always interesting to see like what is someone's version of a long term vision, right? So I've just defaulted to just, what's your long term vision? So we'll ask them that, and then ask them what is working, what's not working. What do they enjoy the most out of their business that kind of got them to start it in the first place? Sometimes we'll ask them, if there are parts of the business they don't enjoy doing, that maybe they could partner up with somebody else and offload that work so they can be focused on what they love doing the most. So it's really just kind of a natural conversation. We do have like set questions that we like to ask, figure out what people are doing for marketing, figure out when the last time they, updated their brand, if they're happy with their logo, all sorts of different things. There's so many different elements to a business, and people need different things every step of the way.
That really sounds good. Thanks for explaining that because somebody getting into a business for the first time, it can be very unnerving trying to develop a business plan, trying to create a strategic outlook. And oftentimes, I've found from my accounting background that people have a clear idea as far as the area they're a subject matter expert in or what the business is about, but all the relatable items, payroll, taxes, all those other different things can weigh you down in trying to focus on the business that you're trying to or service or you're doing trying to provide to people. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool. So in the blog of the podcast, we will list how to contact you, and they can connect with you on that level. But what were you doing before you became a unicorn in the universe?
So before that, I had a business uh, helping financial advisors and financial service professionals set up their systems and automate the technology, basically just streamline their workflow. So did a good amount through operational development at my corporate job at Hertz. I was with them for about 5 years, worked into a regional manager position where helped them with a lot of different playbooks. So kind of just got good at creating processes that
Okay.
made things happen automatically. So then I plugged in technology to automatically do those things where possible. And yeah, so my experience at Hertz kind of helped me get the job to do operations for some other companies. And it was through that I then started my business doing operations and tech development. So
Okay, natural evolution. They're pretty cool. So where are you from originally, Daniel?
originally I'm from Spain.
Okay.
I moved here when I was very, very young, like just under 2 years old. So
Okay. And who moved here with you? Certainly you just didn't get on a plane and come by yourself. So
yeah, not quite. Sometimes I joke and I say that I did, but
oh, okay.
yeah. No, it was my mom and my dad, and then three older sisters, and then they had three more kids after moving here. So my family is,
Wow. Okay. And so, okay, so you would have been the youngest, it sounds like, but now that was adjusted. So now are you like are you right at the middle child, like three
yep.
before and three after? Okay. My sister that lives next door to me, she is literally the middle child. There's two above and two of them. And so do you feel like having any of those middle child scenarios going on, or it's all a myth?
I mean, it definitely comes up. Like, I don't think it's too bad. But yeah, the middle child syndrome is there. It's real for sure.
It's a real thing. Okay. So tell me, so when you came from Spain, where did you come to in the United States?
So we moved straight here from here being Utah,
Okay.
from was Valencia, Spain to Sandy, Utah area, Salt Lake Valley.
That does not sound fun compared to Spain. What I think sorry for anybody who's from Utah, but I'm thinking Spain to Utah, that seems just like a big difference to me.
Especially if we're talking about fun. I mean, you
Well,
you,
you're
you
two.
use
Aren't
the
we supposed to be thinking about fun at 2 years old?
100%. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it. My parents were LDS, and so they wanted to move to Utah. I think for the LDS community, the Mormon Church, and yeah, so that's a huge reason why they moved here. Because my mom met my dad in Spain while she was on her mission. And so my mom is from the US, but my dad is from Spain.
Oh, okay. So for those who don't know, explain what LDS, what that stands for, and what is. I've been to Utah. I've been to the location there, but a lot of people have not had that experience. So if you could explain what LDS stands for and why Utah is so significant to the LDS community.
Yeah, so LDS means Latter-day Saint. It's a religious organization, also known as the Mormon Church, and it's very prominent in Utah. The church was started on more toward the East Coast, but then, they pioneered over here and basically decided to develop Utah, and that is kind of how Utah became what it is, was through the LDS Church. The reason it's so significant here in Utah is that it started here, and about half of the population in Utah is LDS, and so it's a very strong community. You can talk to most people at the grocery store, and most of them will say that they're LDS, and they probably went to church on Sunday. So, yeah, yeah.
And so, thank you. Do you still practice the LDS faith?
I do not know.
Okay. Have you? So when I was in Utah, the I don't want to say compound, but where it is massive. And can you explain a little bit about that and what that looks like? Because I just don't, until I saw it, I had no concept from the organs, the pipes, the different places of worship there. And I believe also underground facility. I mean, there's a lot of effort that was taking place to do that intentionally, it seems.
Oh yeah. And so are you talking about the temple
Hmm.
specifically? So, and I mean, even just the churches are pretty, they're robust sized
That's a good
churches,
way.
right? There's nothing small about those. But the temples, man, like basically imagine like the best location in the valley that you can see from any place in the valley, and that's where the temple is going to be. And it's going to be up on a high hill, and it's going to be lit up day in, day out, and you can see it. It like is like a bright shining star in the middle of the valley from, wherever that you can see it. But they're just massive.
Hmm.
It is literally a temple. Some of them are a lot nicer than others, but they are super nice. I mean, they do not they don't cut any corners when they build those temples, tons of glass chandeliers. It's all white. Everything needs to be white. In fact, they don't let you wear clothes, like all the clothing you wear in the temple when you do like the baptisms has to be white. So it's all super pure, very pure
Mm.
is, how I would describe it.
Okay, thank you. So what was your upbringing like in this robust family in Utah? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so we did go to church every week. There were a lot of church events that we would go to, all sorts of different things that we would do. The church had certain missionaries that would come around the house, people that would do home teaching. So spent a lot of time with family, especially growing up with six siblings. Always something going on. So it was funny because most of my immediate family is fairly large, but then my extended family basically ends with my immediate family. There are
Oh,
still some people like in Spain, but on my mom's side, she just had a brother who passed away very young. And so she didn't have any other siblings. And on my grandma's side, they didn't have a super huge family either. And so on my dad's side, everybody else lived in Spain. So I still have people there, but we don't really know them. So it was
mm,
kind of like the seven of us plus my two grandparents. That was like our immediate family, you
okay.
know.
Is your dad still living?
He's not. No, he passed away about 10 years ago.
Okay. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? How did your dad pass?
Sure. So, yeah, one day when I was 21 years old, it was I think 2023. Yeah, so about 10 years ago. I had got a call from my stepsister. My dad was currently living in Spain because he'd actually got deported. And so he was in Spain. I got a call from my stepsister, and she basically let me know that he had passed away in his sleep
Mm,
alone, just mid 50s from a heart attack. So I wasn't terribly shocked. I kind of always knew that my dad was going to go this way. Like I just knew that it was going to be a heart attack because, his dad's dad, every male above him basically died mid 50s from a heart attack. And what I realized is that there's a very common theme that they all had, which was that they were running bakeries and eating very poorly, not taking care of themselves, and stressed out, working from 4 a.m. to midnight every single day, just pushing as hard as they could to make a buck. And so when he died, we had kind of had this unspoken, well, not unspoken, we had this agreement that I would go over there and take over the bakeries and run them. At that time when he passed, he had 7 bakeries and a warehouse, like a distribution center. You would think like, okay, cool, go over to Spain. You've got this whole business all set up and go over there and run it. And at that time, I was living here in the US doing my own business, enjoying it, loving it. Like I loved what I was doing. I was fixing and flipping electronics off of the local classifieds and then selling them on eBay. Super easy, like the easiest job I think that I ever had set up for myself. Basically, I would post an ad on the classifieds and say that I'll buy people's broken laptops, iPods, iPhones, tablets, whatever. And then I would fix them and sell them on eBay and basically put them in a prepaid envelope and UPS would come pick them up from my doorstep. I had just this business running, out of my apartment. It was awesome. So
It sounds like it was
anyways,
just like right up your niche. It was like, so, I mean, you can decide on the volume, good or bad, and people needed their electronics. And okay, that was nice.
yeah, I mean, I just worked from my apartment. People would come meet me in the lobby. I'd check out the item and then give them some cash, fix it. Then the person would come pick it up from my doorstep. It was awesome.
And so the first thing that comes to my mind is Neo in the Matrix, where they're coming to the door and they're knocking, and he's done this stuff and he's handing them something. You're getting money. I can almost relate everything back to the Matrix, one version or another. But that's what I saw in my head, sort of kind of dark and quiet. Like, here you go. There's the tech going on with that.
Nice. Nice. That's funny. Now, there were some sketchy incidents doing that business. It's part of
Mhm.
why I stopped was because, I can't tell you how many times I was meeting somebody at 1, 2 in the morning, buying a phone in like the middle of the ghetto. Like, I'm in Salt Lake, so it's not like it's really that bad. But, you know, these people need their money. And so they're
So you sort
hitting
of
me
had
up.
a bit of a Neo going on, but Salt Lake does have a very large, and not that everyone is homeless is dangerous, but there's a very large homeless population that I saw in Salt Lake City, Utah, that I didn't see elsewhere. And I thought
Mhm.
that gave into the LDS community because how generous people are there in helping and supporting in the weather. But every place has a seedy area that there's
Yeah.
going to be someplace no matter what it is. So there was a little bit of Matrix going on with a little Neo going on. Okay, so the bakeries in Spain, we got off track. I'm sorry, the Matrix popped
Yeah.
into my head. I couldn't help myself.
No, you're okay. Things like that always seem to happen. But yeah, so anyway, I was doing this business and it was just working like clockwork. I was making okay money, but my life was easy. And when you're working for yourself, that's one of the reasons you do it, for that freedom to do whatever you want. So when my dad died, all of a sudden I'm like, I need to go and run these bakeries. And I was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to do that. Why give up everything I have here? And there's a very important part to this that I didn't mention is that I came to find out that, he had all these bakeries, but he was a couple $100,000 in debt for equipment and, materials. And so there's all these people chasing him down trying to get this money. So I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I have the option to take over a failing business that has killed my dad and every male above him, or stay here and do what I enjoy doing and not take on all of this debt, right? So you can guess what I did. I stayed here. I did not move to Spain. I said, I'm going to break that mold. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be another male who dies mid 50s from a heart attack, just like my dad and everybody above him. So that was kind of like my time where I decided that I needed to change some things up. And it's funny because that's when I ended up going and finding a job because I was a little discouraged that my dad had this business that seemed all successful, and here he was super broke. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just gonna go get a job and let somebody else handle the risk and send me a paycheck. That
Mhm.
didn't last very long. So yeah.
So let's go back a little bit and thank you for sharing that. How did you convey that you were not going to go to Spain and you were not going to take over the business? How was that received? How did that go?
It wasn't like a super defined thing. I think it would have been just as crazy for me to go over and take it over and run it as it was for me not to.
Okay.
Um, just because, I wasn't there. I wasn't running it. For me to just go and take it over would have been kind of weird. But at the same time, it all just kind of it ended up all getting sold off to pay off debts. And so
Okay.
this whole business that my dad essentially killed himself building just disappeared, you know?
That is a lot to think about. I am sorry for your dad, and I'm sorry for the generations that this happened over. But it does speak a lot to the idea of the level of stress that we place on ourselves for something that can be dissipated very quickly. A lot of things can seem so important right now and have so much value, but it can easily be gone. And none of it really downright matters when those material things are gone. It's about the person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just as I said that, it just really had like reaffirms that decision to not do it, because what good is that really doing for the world, you know? And if you want to really create a lasting impact, sure, you can start a business that creates a legacy and passes on wealth for a generation or two, or maybe even 100. But what impact is that really creating? And and is that a legacy that is worth, being super proud of? Not to say that it's not, right? But I just felt like that just wasn't what I wanted to do, you know?
Right.
So,
Obviously, owning businesses is something you support what you're doing, but you have to be strategic about that. So I think going back to one of the things that you talked about, understanding somebody's dreams and helping them lay that out. Owning a business and running a business is better with the right people in place to help you focus on those things.
oh yeah.
What type of relationship did you have with your dad overall?
So I had a really good relationship with him. I would speak to him multiple times a week, sometimes for hours at a time. And we would talk about all sorts of things. I looked up to him for a lot. He was very inspirational for me, as far as a model for hard work. I will, give him all the credit that is due for that. And I think it killed him. He showed me just how important it is to work as hard as you can and how much more important it is to not, So I don't know. I mean, the memories I have of my dad almost all involve like work in some way. We'd go and work at his bakery, or I'd go with him and sit at his office while he worked, or I'd go help him open a bakery, or, like it's just all working. And I didn't really have a huge relationship with him after he got deported when I was 12. So it's not like that was a huge thing, but we definitely, a huge part of it was him working. But we had a good relationship. I was devastated when he passed. So,
And that's
yeah.
actually what I wanted to talk about. Thank you for mentioning that. How I know you said it's been 10 years, but when you look back on that, how did that impact you? And I don't want to, sometimes people use word like it was hard. Like, how did that show up in your life as hard? How did that work?
As far as my relationship with my dad is concerned and how losing him impacted my life, I mean, he was somebody that I could call and talk to about all of the things I was doing in my business, all the things that I was doing to, create a life for myself. I mean, everything that I was doing at that time, I was always thinking about making my dad proud. There isn't anybody else above him or really above me, not really anybody else aside from my mom, who I was working to, kind of show myself to. So all of a sudden it was like, what do I do? Like, why do I do anything? And so, yeah, so it was very odd to lose somebody that I could tell anything to. And you know, and now I don't have that person. I have a brother, but there are things that I wouldn't tell my brother that I could talk to my dad about, you know? So,
Hmm.
and same with my mom, right? So that
How did you,
definitely was a challenge. Yeah.
how did you manage that void? I mean, and so your dad passes, you're a young man just starting to come into your own. What impact did that really make on your day-to-day existence when you spoke about trying to find purpose? What are you doing for? How did that show up in your life? How did that look for you?
I think for a big part of it, I was operating purposeless. And, that's a huge reason why I think I was miserable at my corporate job at Hertz, was because I was just there to make a living. And it was just a stepping stone to stop working in auto sales. So I was very intentionally at this job that I just hated to get out of it just because I knew I didn't want to do it. What did I want to do? I didn't really know. And so, the purpose that I have found for myself has kind of found me in a way through connections and getting to know people and collaborating with people to create Unicorn Universe. So
Mm,
I am very fortunate because, you know, I've found that purpose through trying different things out and through really getting clear on what's important to me. So
mm. So that you worked at Hertz, you said 10, how long were you working there?
about 5 years.
5 years. And of those 5 years, how long do you think that you were probably actively grieving and trying to cope with your dad's absence?
I don't think I really did a whole lot of grieving while I was at Hertz. And I don't know, a lot of that is because I was just go, go, go. I was
Okay.
working a ton there. I was with a girl who I was pretty serious with. I had been with her for about 5 years, almost like, the timeline of working at Hertz and dating her were aligned. And so what's weird is, after her and I broke up and after I left Hertz, I spent a lot of time really focused on myself you know, and a lot of it, I feel like it wasn't until, just a couple of years ago that I really felt the grief from losing my dad that I hadn't felt for so long. It's interesting because you say, as you mentioned, I know he's been passed for 10 years, right? Almost as if it's easier over time. But what's interesting is that it has seemed to just get harder over time. It's weird. You wouldn't think that that's the case, but when I talk to people who are my dad's age who talk about conversations with their dad, it is really confusing to me. It's like,
Mm,
man, you're like my dad's age talking to your dad about his dad who's still alive. And it's like, that is crazy. Like, it's so interesting to think about how much like support and knowledge people have at their fingertips with their parents,
mhm.
and so it's just weird because I'm like, man, there have been some days where I could really just go for a phone call with my dad. Like, I just need to talk something out with him, but it's
Mhm.
gone. So those days where
Mm.
it's like the people I know who have a dad my dad's age and they're still, leaning on that advice, it's harder. It's like, man, I can't believe you still have that access to somebody like that, you know?
Right. Thank you for sharing that, and particularly the idea about the length of time, because people who have not really had someone close to them die, I think take the grieving process nonchalantly. That you bury them, you're back to work, you appear to be fine. But for those 5 years, it sounds as if you were doing something that I hear a lot of people doing, trying to stay super busy so the grief doesn't catch me. Like I'm on the move, I'm doing this, this, and that. And after a while, grief eventually at some point in time needs to come out and it sort of hits you like a brick wall. And it's like, I have to deal with that, as you were saying, focusing on yourself. How did you realize that it was the grief from your dad that you were finally managing or dealing with?
At some point, I was meditating or something and was thinking about my dad, and it just really hit me just how much I miss him. And like for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I just like bawled, and I cried harder than I think I had ever cried over losing my dad within, the past couple years. And like harder than ever after losing him. And I've never seen his grave.
Mm,
Um, and so it's always been a weird thing for me because I was just told that he died.
okay.
My
So like,
sister has where he's at, but I haven't seen that. I haven't been back to Spain since he died. I helped him open these bakeries and was working there with him. So there's definitely like a resistance to going back to Spain because I feel like it'd be very difficult for me.
I think it could
So
be both. It could be difficult and it also could be satisfying as far as closure to be able to have that. It's a mixed bag per se. So the emotions are flowing from your dad's death and his absence. How did you learn to manage that, or what did you start doing from there, since now this is becoming apparent that he's gone and the hurt and the absence of that is real?
so unfortunately, I got very used to my dad being gone at a very young age.
Okay.
I was 8. So when I was what was it, 9, 10 years old, that's when things really went down in my family's
Okay.
situation. Basically, my house was swarmed by the FBI, just like in the movies. A fleet of SUVs raided our house and they took everything from us. They had just indicted my dad for laundering something like $10 million for the Colombian cartel, and he got locked up and put into jail at that time. So I was very young at that age, and then he got deported a few years later. So I was very used to him just not really being there. And so, to adjust to it, and I think that's kind of why it took so long to really feel the impact from losing him. I'm used to already not having him.
Okay.
So, so yes, I think over time I just, you know, more and more instances where I would have wanted to be able to talk to him and just wasn't able to. And I think that it just, kind of caught up to me. So how did I get through it? There really isn't a whole lot you can do about it except for manage your attitude, right?
Okay.
I had dealt with so many difficult things in my life. The last thing I would want is one extra problem, which is my own mindset. I
Okay.
might as well let that be a positive light for everything that happens in this world, right? Why let that be the one extra thing that's also negative, right? I can have my dad die, but I'm going to stay positive. I can lose my house, but I'm going to stay positive, right? As soon as you throw two negatives, it gets very dark very quickly.
hmm I was going to ask, you said you've experienced a lot of hard things in your life. What is that laundry list of hard things that you're thinking of when you say that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole situation with my dad getting deported and locked up shortly after him and my mom we did lose our house and everything. They had to sell off all of our cars. The only way we had a car was because somebody in the church loaned us a car and then somebody else gave us a car. Had it not been the church, we probably would have been homeless. Wasn't long after that my mom then had breast cancer. A lot of these things that happened in my life aren't necessarily things that happen directly to me. The negative things that happen directly to me are things that I caused myself, being a troublemaker, crazy kid.
We're going to come
But
back to that. Keep going. I'm making a
yeah,
note.
yeah, yeah, that was these are things that happened to my mom, really. She's the one that went through a lot. But yeah, and my dad was kind of abusive. I didn't have to go through that. But I watched him hit my siblings. I watched him, you know, do things that he shouldn't have done. There was a point in my life where I spilled my brother's milk, and he, being my dad, I blamed it on my brother. I tried to pass that off on him. My
Of
dad
course
did
you
not
did.
like that. I blame him for that. So he proceeded to basically waterboard me with milk out of the fridge. He just dumped like gallon after gallon of milk on my head, and then, spanked me and told me to go take a shower, and then told me to come clean it up.
Mm,
That wasn't cool. That's definitely a, memory that's locked away for life. Um,
yes.
so, we moved a lot after he got deported. I think over like a 4 year span, we moved like 7 times or something like that. Didn't have a ton of money as kids growing up. Again, the church was very helpful for us. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of little things, but overall, I'm pretty optimistic with how things have gone. I have all of my siblings, and my mom is the closest person in my life, and I still have her even after, she fought breast cancer. She had another cancer scare, not too long ago, but that's all going okay. Life's good at the end of the day. You know,
How do
things
you,
happen.
okay,
You just
okay.
gotta stay positive.
How do you stay positive? Not just that statement, but when X happens, how do you choose the positive?
I think there are a couple ways that you can do it. But what I like to do, I do like to find the silver lining in things. If I can find a silver lining, that's always great. I don't like to dwell on the negative things. So something happens, just move on, right? Not a big deal. Find the silver lining. If it's a lesson, if it's an opportunity to grow, if it's because you know, are now stronger for whatever happened, there's usually something good to happen or to come from something bad that happened. And a lot of the time, just take responsibility. So many people get so stuck on the blame game, like, oh, this happened to me. Oh, this happened and it's so and so's fault. Oh, this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this person or that person or whatever. And I find that the easiest way to not dwell on a situation is to own it as your own fault almost,
Okay.
right? Even like getting rear ended on the freeway. Maybe you could have left earlier. Maybe you could have given yourself more space. That's like a totally out there example, but when you stop blaming everybody else for things that happen in your life and you just take that responsibility, it's not a problem. It's like not a big deal when things happen. You just, okay, that happened. Can I fix it? Could I have done anything to prevent it? Move on.
Okay. So I heard something you said a little bit earlier about the crazy kid version. Where
Oh
did
boy.
that transition into the responsible person? I want to hear some of the crazy kid life and then how it became Mr. Positivity.
Yeah. So the only person that gets an exception to the, things not happening to them is my mom. She got abused by all the things that I did and as a teenager. Um, at one point, I was 15 years old, and me and my friend, after a church dance, decided to make a bomb out of toilet bowl cleaner and aluminum foil and a plastic bottle, basically. That's like that's all it takes. There are certain formulas, certain,
They can find
foil.
better on the internet now. That's a long
Yeah.
time ago. So we're not putting out any secrets.
Yeah. So, you can't just go and buy anything. But anyway, so we made this bomb. We had made a few before, and he goes, "Oh, Daniel, it's starting to warm up." He goes and he hands me the bottle, and it explodes right in my face, down my throat, in my eyes. I'm swearing. I'm with this, him and this girl that he likes after this church dance. So I'm like swearing. You're not allowed to swear, like throwing up because I had just ingested all of this toilet bowl
Hmm.
cleaner and oil. Like my eyes were burning. It was awful. So, you know, his mom came rushing outside and was like, "What in the world just happened?" We're like, "Well, Daniel just blew up his face, basically." So, um, so she, you know, we washed out my eyes. She rushed me home. She's like, "Hey, you got to let your mom know so she can take you to the hospital." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that." So I took a shower. And I was like, "Okay, I'm fine." So I went to bed.
I must say, you did not tell your mom. Okay.
Oh wait.
No way.
So I no way. I woke up in the morning and I could not see. I was totally blind. I was terrified. I was like, what am I gonna do?
Now, were
So
you blind or were your eyes like swollen shut?
I was both, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it was a combo pack. Um, I could open and it was super blurry. Like, you know, if you were to close your eyes as much as you can with
Hmm.
your flashes barely letting light through. Not even that good though. My mom was not there at that time, but we, you know, got a hold of her. She came and grabbed me and she was like, we gotta rush you to the hospital right now. So they did. And they rushed me in past everybody, people with broken arms, you know, all these things. They rushed me in right away. They were like, you might lose your vision, you know? So I had an eye patch on both eyes for about a month and they took one of them off. And then I just had one rocking on the other eye for about another month. But I was then known as Eye Patch Man uh, in middle school. Terrible, terrible time. That's just a fraction of, or no, that was high school. No, that was middle school.
No, hold on, hold
Other-
on. Did your mother find out why you were blind, or you just said you woke up like this? How did that get spun? Or is your mom going to find out about it now when she watches this podcast? That
She knows. She
okay,
knows.
okay, you
Yeah.
sure?
Oh, I know she knows that I blew up my face. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
100%. Yeah.
okay.
So,
At what point did you tell her? Were you in the hospital crying, or later?
well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, when did I tell her what happened? You know, she
Hmm.
probably just found out. She probably just added it to the list. I swear, like, if she had a list of things that her kids did that were not okay, I would take up like 5 pieces of paper from with that list.
Okay, I
I was
want to
just,
hear one more, Daniel.
oh man.
Well, you were giving us this Mr. Positivity. I need to hear how we got to that. So I'm gonna need some more of the crazy Daniel stories to understand and appreciate the maturity that's happened over the years.
Okay. I was quite the pyromaniac.
Oh, okay, that was your thing. Okay.
It really just was, you know, this other this other time, me and my friends, we would put newspaper in a shoebox, light the newspaper on fire with a can of spray paint in the middle of it, and then shoot the can of spray paint with a BB gun. And it would explode and create like this mushroom cloud of fire from the, you know, compressed spray paint. And I about burned our house down one day, and my sister told on me, and I I was like the dumbest bad kid because I would record everything and put it on YouTube. So my sister could go and show my mom the video, and my mom's like, "Are you kidding me?" It was the 4th of July, and she grounds me. I'm like, "I'm not grounded. It's the 4th of July." I just left. I just went out anyway. I mean, you know,
Okay, so first I'm gonna say, do not try this at home. We're gonna put that disclaimer out
that
there.
is the beginning of the
Yeah,
call.
don't try any of that. When I do the oh yeah, don't try that at home. I mean, the what was the newspaper have to do with the can and the spray paint? What was the value of that?
Just like starter, you know, like
Oh,
kindling
start a
based.
fire. Okay, to get it going. Okay. I thought you were going someplace else with the box, and I did not see the spray can coming in. And how close were you to it when you guys are shooting it with the BB gun?
Maybe 20 feet, give or take. I had a
Okay.
hose with running water next to me.
Oh, okay. So you had some safety measures going on too. Okay.
Yeah,
So if you have children, Daniel, do you have children now?
I don't know.
You see what's coming your way though, right?
Why do you think I don't have children anymore?
gosh, if it happens, I want to hear about it. I want to hear all of the stories. So what
Yeah.
age did you start becoming this person of looking at things positive versus this very reckless child that you were?
Well, I mean, the two don't necessarily contradict each other.
Okay.
I was a very positive kid, but I was
Oh,
also blowing stuff up. Um, I
are
just
you still
enjoy.
blowing stuff up? Are those still two the same or are they're different? Okay, we don't have to answer that. We don't have to answer. We'll just leave that as a question on the table.
I think I'm good. I don't think I've blown anything up in a while, so
Okay.
yeah, we should be good. But you know, put me on a camping trip with a can of spray paint. We don't know what will happen,
So
right?
spray. Okay, we're gonna leave it alone. Okay. So you said you were always a positive child?
Well, maybe not always, but yeah, a lot of kids when they go through certain things will cover up their sadness, their emotions with jokes, with positivity, with,
Hmm.
you know, this facade that they are happier than they actually are. And I absolutely did that when I was younger, but I think that it just, kind of infused in me just a general energy of positivity. And I have just learned how to stay positive, whether faking it or faking it till it's real and being in a positive attitude to, try to be positive. I'm not always positive. I get super angry about, random things, not like all the time, but
Okay.
my dog knows things don't, it's not always unicorns and rainbows. It is, but it's not. So
But no, that's important because um, it sounds from you explaining that you started grieving the absence of your dad at a very young age and was learning to live outside of his presence, which is helpful for someone to think about how do I learn to manage at that young age in the absence of someone that I love. Or maybe someone is an adult now and they may have never really dealt with the death of a parent or a divorce of parents and not having that space. Grief shows up differently in our lives. It is oftentimes related to the death of a person, but there are other parts of us that we grieve. So there was grieving going on in young Daniel that probably morphed out in different acting up and how that came to be because that energy has to go someplace. So I can see how that works. And nobody, and thank you for saying not always positive because life doesn't always afford us that. There
yeah.
are a lot of different things, but your endeavor to continually, I want to say, take charge of your own work life shows up in a lot of different ways. And those are things you have to nurture. Those are things you have to put time into. You don't start a business today and it just takes off. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. I think I remember when we were speaking, you were saying how much time, like you were talking about how much time you put into this, building the unicorn universe and what that looks like and your energy in that. What does that look like for you on a day-to-day basis?
I don't keep track of the time that I'm working on Unicorn Universe, largely because one, I don't need to, and two, I don't feel like I would either way. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and
Okay.
so it doesn't really feel like I'm working a whole lot. Am I? Yes. Have I put in, countless hours working away to, create something faster than if I, was going to sleep at a reasonable time some nights.
I'm not even going to
100.
ask you what time that is. I'm not.
Oh, all the hours, sometimes all nighters into events, like the whole gamut. I have
Okay.
put in the hours and then some. I'm not somebody, like I said earlier, my dad showed me hard work ethic. I definitely have a hard work ethic. I know when to stop and a good balance,
Good.
but yeah, I have had plenty, 70, 80 plus hour work weeks. So I wouldn't be able to quantify it. And And I think it's okay. There are weeks where I'm working from, 6, 7 a.m. till 2 a.m. Every single day. And some of those days till 4 a.m. That doesn't really happen anymore. But in the early phases, it totally happened. And a lot of it because I enjoyed doing it, a lot of it because I wanted to grow, and a lot of it, I think, just kind of having um, that work ethic, just being so strong, like, just always working from 8 years old, going to the bakery with my dad, 12 years old, running newspapers with my mom, creating my own business, fixing and flipping electronics, making up for credits that I lost from not being in school toward the end of middle school, you know, doing extra work credits on top of extra credits in school, and then, always working towards something new. So, you know, working a ton of hours is just pretty natural for me. It's pretty normal.
Okay.
I feel like it's pretty balanced now. I spend a good amount of time, enjoying time with my dog, or doing, physical activities like bike rides or runs or hikes or whatever, So yeah, but I'll put in the work,
Okay.
100%.
So in the beginning, you spoke about something about the dream consultations you have with people. What is your dream for Unicorn Universe?
Yeah, so the dream discoveries. So my dream is to help 10 million businesses. I write that goal down pretty much every day, if not sometimes twice a day, to bring people together and ultimately support companies and civilizations that are focused on creating a positive difference in the world by making connections that help them accomplish what they're trying to do faster and with more ease, and align with those companies who have missions and visions that I can support with other companies that are aligned with those things too, and work with them to collaborate and create a greater impact by working together. Because so many people are competing and they're fighting against each other and splitting up resources and operating in a scarce type of mentality. When if you flip that on your head and you operate from an abundance mentality, we can create a lot more impact by working together, an exponentially greater impact. And so my dream for Unicorn Universe is all these people working together, supporting each other on the projects that they have to create a positive difference in the world, and ultimately have this system that is designed that just generates revenue for these purpose-driven businesses in ways that just hasn't been done before. And through connections and access and, you know, different things that we're going to implement with technology, um, really just to help people achieve their dreams. That's what I see us doing with it.
Nice. Two more questions.
Okay.
If you were to pick any age and go back to talk to younger Daniel, what age would it be ish and what would you tell him?
That's a good question. I think I've answered a similar question, but I would go back to the 8-year-old Daniel and just tell him to be comfortable enjoying his life. That's what I would say.
Okay. What gives you joy these
What
days?
gives freedom just to do what I would like to do. Uh, Being around people that are positive and uplifting, being with my family members, my nieces and nephews, and just hanging out with good people and enjoying those those times with the people that I love. Um, that's really what it's all about, you know. And of course my dog. I've got a just over a year old Doberman. His name is Thor, and he gives me a lot of joy and has cost me a lot of money, but I love that dog. So
Nice. I will let you close us out. Any thoughts, things you thought you wanted to talk about we maybe didn't cover, however long you want in to wrap this up.
All right. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Tina, I just want to say thank you for having me on. Really do appreciate it. I know that, when we lose people in our lives, it can be a very challenging thing. And I don't think anybody really ever knows what we're dealing with. And it's important to just recognize that not only for ourselves, but for other people, and understand that other people don't always know what we're going through either. And so we got to have our expectations set that not only do we not know what other people are dealing with, but other people don't know what we're dealing with either. And so, just got to try to maintain a positive attitude that we're here, and whatever that means that we have the ability to create a positive difference in the world. And that's what I'm here to do, and what I feel like has been part of my mission since I was very young, is to just spread positivity even on my darkest days. Because if I can be somebody's light when they're having a rough day, then that's what I'm going to try to do. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.